Okay, so good morning, everybody. This is our morning energizing Hatha class. And the theme this week, because we're approaching the Canadian Thanksgiving, is to bring more of that kind of gratitude and bring more of that kind of energy into our lives. So we're going to start in a seated position this morning. Make sure as you're seated that you're comfortable. So that means your hip joints higher than your knee joints. That might mean for you, you sit in a chair, or you'll see for me, I have a stack of blankets that I always sit on in order to help me stay more comfortable. I lost Marcia. Hopefully she's coming back. I'll watch for her. Okay, so if you're comfortable to close your eyes, that might be an idea. Please make sure that your back is in a natural alignment. The curves of your back are in a natural alignment. And if possible, you're breathing softly in and out through your nose. I want to throw an idea out to you. I don't know if you read this in the email that came out about this class, but every night we move to bed, most of us do anyway, and surrender into sleep. This is a huge feat. And when you can't sleep well, you can see how amazing it is that you do surrender into sleep on a daily basis. But of course, physically, it's very important to surrender into sleep. But also, if you think about it more from a yogic lens, because we're more holistic in our view in yoga, when you surrender into sleep, you allow your conscious mind to let go of its attempt to control your environment. And you allow yourself to float into the land of dreams, into the land of restoration, into the land of being as opposed to doing. And those are two very different states of mind. In yoga, we have a combination, really. We float between doing as we assume a posture, and then we also try to keep that connection to the sense of just being in this space rather than trying to control it or change it. So when we're sleeping at night, we're very much in the being state, and our unconscious or subconscious will be much more active. This is a great act of faith to surrender the need to control or fix or guide our experience in life. And that's why I think I have trouble falling asleep as I get older, because you have a lot more accumulated experiences and you get nervous about life sometimes. So that's a great act of faith, but it's a very important thing to do because our being world is actually much more influential in how we feel about life than our doing world. Our doing world accounts for only about 20% of our thoughts and experiences. Our unconscious or subconscious world really accounts for more like 80% or even more of our experiences and our thoughts and our emotions and how we remember things. So we really have very little control. It's an illusion. I want to really talk about the moment of waking, though, in this class this morning. Upon waking, and if you think back to when you woke up this morning, you maybe can remember, there's this gentle and gradual return to consciousness and to the doing mode of being. And during that time, and it can happen if you wake up very quickly, it can happen in a nanosecond. For me, I'm not a real fast waker upper, so it happens over a matter of moments. But we consciously allow our brains to don the cloak we wore yesterday of the doing mode. So if we move from this receiving, being, openness in sleep to I have my armor back on. I have my to-do list back in my hand. Every morning we have a choice as to what we don. What do we put back on? And we have this cloak, and as we get older, it can get really heavy with regrets and hurts and experiences that were unpleasant. So when we come to consciousness in the morning and get ready to go back into the doing mode, we might have this real defensive armor built up, a lot of opinions about what should be. And if life doesn't unfold exactly that way over the next few minutes or hours or days, we can become very frustrated and angry. So that concept, I think we can bring into our class this morning, because we still have time. It's early. We still have time to decide how we're going to move through our day. That's why I love my morning yoga practice. We can decide what we're going to don for the day. How heavy is that cloak of armor going to be? And when you move and breathe in your yoga postures, you're kind of readjusting that, aren't you? You're shedding some of those old hurts. You're shedding some of those old grudges and opinions as they don't fit us anymore. And I don't know about you, but after my morning yoga practice, I can often feel a lot lighter and more mobile, not just physically. So let's explore that mechanism this morning and be really, really conscious of how we are donning our cloak as we get into the day. So from this seated position, we're just going to start to become more aware of our breath. So the breath is a secret tool that allows us to be more conscious of the being state of mind. The physical body lures us to be more doing. I have an itch, so I scratch. I'm hungry, so I eat. I'm restless, so I go for a run, doing things. Whereas breath invites us to pause and connect in this moment and to explore being for a moment. So can I invite you now, maybe your eyes are closed, to begin breathing consciously in and out through the nose if possible, and come into what we call in yoga samavriti breath, which means even wave breath. So consciously matching your inhale to your exhale. I find it most helpful for me to be counting 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 on the inhale, and then I count backwards on the exhale. And you may find a 4, 5, or even 6 count exhale and inhale works for you this morning. Staying as focused as you can, 100% on the breath. We'll just take 3 more samavriti breaths. And then please slide over onto your back with your knees bent. I'm going to join you now to demonstrate. I think we've all gathered, those of us that are coming. I'm spreading my blanket out so it just supports my spine now. And bringing with you your samavriti breath as we come into a supine position with our knees gently bent. When you're ready to inhale, count out your inhale, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, lifting the arms. And as you exhale, gently hug one knee in towards your chest. Inhale, extend arms back. And exhale, hug the other knee in towards the chest. Inhale, extend the arms again. And exhale, hug both knees in towards your chest. So that little pattern, let's repeat that a few more times. And it's quite an exercise in concentration to do this movement and to also keep the breath in perfect time. When we engage counting the breath and moving at the same time, especially in an asymmetrical pattern like this, we really enable your brain to stay in the present moment a little bit more effectively. Staying in the present moment pretty much equates to being in that being place, where we don't necessarily take on the heavy cloak of responsibilities, to-dos, grudges and regrets, hurts and fears. All of that is in the doing state of mind. So we're using our yogic techniques to stay more in the being state of mind. Next time you have both knees in hand, let's come into Mandalasana. Inhale, separate the knees using your samavriti breath. Exhale, bring the knees closer together. Now you're deciding how big you want to make these circles. They can be quite large this morning or smaller. And we'll do 3 circles with our legs moving in one direction. Each circle equates to 1 full breath. And then reversing the direction of the circles for the next 3 breaths. So I find this concept of surrendering at night, having the faith to surrender into sleep, and yet in the morning we re-armor. What do I really need to pick up? What really serves me? And what is just weighing me down? When you've done the 3 breaths in both directions, let's drop the feet. They can be quite far apart to either side of the mat. And I'm going to take my arms into a goalpost position. Now, if this isn't comfortable, you can have your arms stretched straight out or even kept down at your sides. This is just a way to kind of open the shoulders a little bit. I'm going to inhale with the knees pointing center. Exhale, let them drop gently towards one side. Inhale, knees come up. Exhale, they drop towards the other side while the head turns gently in the opposite direction. So there's a little wringing out of the spine going on. It's very gentle. Try not to bring the doing state of mind too much to the forefront here. If you feel like you have to get your legs all the way to the floor and turn your head all the way around, sorry, touching off my phone. There we go. You're coming into the doing state of the mind instead of the being state of mind. There we go. And after a few more rotations like that, please bring your knees back up to the center point. And rest your back for a moment. And then we're going to roll right over to our side and make our way up to a standing position. I'm going to take my blanket off the mat now. And come to my first mountain pose. So as you come up from the floor, be aware of the postural patterns that may reflect that heavy armor. So tension in the shoulders, classic. You're just shouldering too much. Also tension in the low back. Your burdens are too heavy. So those little kind of cute little sayings actually really do reflect the truth for many of us. So as you come to stand, allow your joints to soften and see if you can shed some of the heaviness, some of that armoring that you've unconsciously donned. You don't have to hold up the entire world, especially for the duration of your practice. When you're ready, we've got somebody who's trying to come in here. There we go. We're going to come into a little bit of a flow here. So when you're ready, let's inhale, lift the arms as high as you are comfortable. As you exhale, soften the knees and forward fold, connecting towards the earth. Surrender here as best you can. Inhale, come halfway up, lengthen the spine, and exhale, forward fold. Inhale, keep the knees soft, keep the back long as you lift all the way up. And exhale, arms to your side. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see that from this perspective, but you're fine the way you are. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. As we repeat this one more time with the pace of your Samavriti breath, your even wave breath, be thinking about the gestures you're making, a gesture of hope and receptivity, a gesture of surrender, of softening into the being mode, a gesture of willingness to learn and to do the work, to be happier, to be more fulfilled. And then know that we're not in charge of all of that. This will be given freely as we learn to participate more in the natural flow of life. And then a great Thanksgiving when we accept that we don't always have to be in charge. We don't always have to be in control, that these gifts are offered freely. Okay. We're going to come into a little flow incorporating lunge pose now. So you may wish to have a chair to place your hands on if getting your hands all the way to the floor doesn't work well for you. The other option would be a couple yoga blocks. So I'm going to start out using the chair. If you don't need the chair, then you would just have your hands on the floor and continue along with exactly what we're doing. So let's build on that little flow we've started with and using our Samavriti breath. So when you're ready, inhale, extending and lengthening. Exhale, surrendering towards the earth. Inhale, chest lengthens forward. And exhale, let's step the left leg back into lunge. So this is our first lunge. I just want to take a little bit of time to make sure that we're protecting our bodies. Front knee over front ankle, leg pointing straight ahead. You don't want the knee wobbling out or in. Back leg is strong. You notice we're keeping the knee up today. So if you want to use the chair blocks, if that's easier, by all means, you might just need more space between you and the ground. The back leg is strong. This glute muscle over here is quite contracted, and it's helping me to lift the kneecap up from the floor. When you're ready, we're going to take the left arm and inhale it up. And as we exhale, we're going to give a little twist towards the front knee. Inhale, lengthen the line from the back heel to the left fingertips, and exhale, rotate. Let's take that one more time. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, rotate. And then as you inhale, let's step the feet up together. Nice long spine. Exhale, surrender. And inhale, lift all the way up. And exhale, hands to the heart. I'd like to show that if you were going to have your hands on the ground. So I'm going to flip around so I can still see you okay, but you're fine where you are. From the top of your mat, inhale, counting out the breath in your own mind, if that helps you to keep the lovely balanced breath that we started with. Exhale. Inhale, lengthen the heart forward. And exhale, drop the right leg back into lunge. And as I was mentioning earlier, we want the front knee directly over the ankle. The back glute here is contracted and helping to lift the kneecap up from the ground. Now, in this case, when we inhale, we'll be lifting the right arm and exhale, twisting. The arm stays right alongside the ear. And if you need a little help with balance, your left hand can be on a block, or you could do the version with the chair that I showed at first. Inhale, step the feet together, lift the heart. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale, lift all the way up. And exhale, release. You might do a few other things with that particular sequence. Just stop in your mountain pose and notice. When we stretch our bodies, we stretch our minds as well. We stretch out of that heavy cloak that we've donned, that armor, and we've started to see other possibilities. Remember, the more we stay in the present moment, the less the doing mode of thinking rules our world. We can be more. And about 80% of our experiences as humans come from that being state of mind. So the more we get to know it, it's in operation all the time, not just when we sleep. So the more we get to know that being state of mind, the more comfortable we are in our lives, the more we understand ourselves, and the better we can express ourselves as humans. So let's come back to mountain pose. Prepare. Inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lengthen the heart forward. And exhale, step the left leg back into the lunge. Inhale, extend the left arm. And exhale, this time, we might hold the twist. So your hand could still be on the chair if you were using the chair, or your hand could be on the block if you're using a block. Or if balance is with you today, you can just be holding the twist, hands free, more or less. Try to make sure that your back glute is still engaged, that the front knee is still over the front ankle. Let's inhabit this shape for a few more breaths. So really be present with all that's happening in your body, with your breath. Stay in the being state of mind as best as you can, even though you're holding a very complicated posture. On your next inhale, step the back foot forward, half lift. Exhale, relax towards the earth. And then inhale, lift all the way up. And exhale, relax your arms to the sides. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, extend the chest. And exhale, drop the right leg back. Inhale, extend the right arm. And exhale, take that length in the spine and come into the twist. Use your Samavriti breath. This is a very challenging posture. So especially if you're going with no props, you have a lot going on. Can you stay away from judgment? Can you stay away from, gotta get on that, gotta make this better? Can you just be and inhabit the shape for 2 more even wave breaths? Wonderful. And then a little variation here. As you inhale, let's just come back to hands on the chair or on the ground. And as you exhale, come back into plank pose. Now this is the plank pose you might be familiar with without using the chair. If you're using the chair, you can also do plank with your shoulders over your wrists. There's also an option to come down onto the elbows if the wrists don't want to support your weight. And if you need to, you can have a block under one shoulder if one arm isn't there or isn't willing to bear weight today. So holding plank for 2 more breaths. Even wave breaths, particularly challenging in such a physically demanding pose. And then can we bring ourselves right down onto our bellies? So coming right into a prone position. For my friends who don't care to weight bear on the belly, then you are welcome just to have a seat in a chair. And we're going to talk about breathing a little bit here. So please join in with us in doing these breathing patterns without worrying so much about being on your belly. So for my friends that have come down onto their bellies, you might want to have your hands under your forehead to help you settle a little bit better, be able to breathe. And you're welcome to wiggle your pelvis from side to side in order to kind of settle a little bit more into the ground. Begin your even wave breathing, Samavriti breathing. So again, you might want to count, inhaling for a count of 4 or 5 or 6, and then exhaling for the same amount of time. Can we please take about 3 more breaths like that in this prone position, or if you're seated in your chair, just observing the breath from there. Wonderful. We're going to come into a little pattern of movement here. So my friends in the chair can kind of replicate the hand movements without having to be on the belly. For those of us that are down on the belly, let's prepare for a little bit of movement. When you're ready to inhale, can you please extend your right arm, left leg, And lengthen your body as much as possible. Exhale, release back to the earth. Inhale, extend the left arm and right leg as much as possible. And exhale, fold back to earth. And if it's not uncomfortable at all, maybe both arms, both legs extend on the inhale. And we fold back to earth on the exhale. Repeating that pattern 2 more times. Really trying to honor the length of your breath. Wonderful. Last pattern. And then you're welcome to bring your hands back underneath your forehead for a brief rest on your belly, or my friend sitting in the chair, just let your arms rest to your sides. So you can see that what we're doing here is not trying to achieve a whole lot in terms of, we're going to get flat abs today or really stretch out those hamstrings. What we're really working on here is an attempt to be in the moment, to really be, rather than, always doing, always having an agenda. We're really trying to use our postures to connect with breath, because we know the breath is what helps us stay in that being mode. Good, wonderful. Now, for my friends that are on the ground, we're going to stay here for one more posture. And if you are sitting in a chair, you can modify, and I will describe the prone posture, and I will demonstrate the seated posture. So it's kind of interesting. So for my friends who are lying on the ground, align your legs so that they're parallel and straight out back from your hips. So trying to create parallel legs. And then without disturbing yourself too much, can you bend your right knee? Lift the right foot up behind you and see if you can grab the right foot with your right hand. And if that doesn't happen, you may want to have a yoga strap or a tie or a belt from your house coat would do. Good, wonderful. And then just bringing the right foot closer to the buttock is enough to get a beautiful stretch at the front of the right thigh. Bring the 2 knees so they're still in line with the hip joints. They haven't splayed out from each other. And then if you want to intensify the sensations of the posture, you can pull the right foot back, and that's going to draw the right chest open more. And you're in a half bow pose here. Can you find your Samavriti breath? Very challenging pose. And then we'll release. Release your foot, come back to the lying down prone position or the seated position as I'm demonstrating. And just be with the sensations of that very strong posture. We're trying to keep the hips level to the ground, even when we're in the posture. And today our focus is really more about, I think, opening the chest rather than pulling the heel really close to you or anything. So if you want to now, make sure your legs are aligned in an even position. And let's lift the left foot back behind you. Keep the knees close together. And if your left hand doesn't meet the left foot, this is where a strap or a belt would come in handy. spend a few even wave breaths at the beginning of the posture before you try to deepen it, just making sure you can find that being state of mind, that you're not over efforting, that you're not forcing your body to do something that's really uncomfortable. And then if you do want to feel a little bit more physical intensity, you can pull the left foot back. That's going to open the left side of the chest a little bit more. So I'm demonstrating an option. If being on the ground and doing half bow doesn't work, here's a lovely option to be done in the chair where you can still work on opening the chest and working with your Samavriti breath, because that's really the most important thing, is the Samavriti breath. Good. Okay. And then let's release back to where we started. So in a prone position, hands can be under the forehead if that helps you to breathe better. My chair yoga friends can be using seated mountain pose as their neutralizing pose. Take a breath in and out. And then for my friends that are on the ground, carefully bring your hands to beside your chest. As you exhale, kind of stabilize the whole belly area and push up to all fours. Inhale as you push up, and you may decide you want to go back to child's pose or take a downward facing dog. My friends who have been sitting in a chair may wish to take a down dog with their chair, which would look like this. I want to really lengthen the spine and go back to the even wave breath. And then my friends who are in down dog, let's walk our feet up to our hands and come to mountain pose again. So returning to mountain pose. Just take a moment to inhabit this shape. And then let's turn sideways on the mat. So you're facing the long edge of your mat, and take your feet fairly wide apart. I'm going to come into triangle pose or Trikonasana. Do a little series with that so we can continue to work with our even wave breathing, and we can continue to work with the idea that it's not about the posture, it's not about the shape you make with the body. We're all different, we all have different looks, but it's about that even wave breath and staying in the present moment. That's where the magic happens. You can have the most beautiful triangle pose and we can take your picture and put it on the front of a magazine. You're not a yogi, but you could be lumpy and bumpy and old like me and not do a very deep triangle, and maybe it's very asymmetrical. It's not beautiful and organized, but if you're really in the zone, if your Samavriti breath is perfect and you're really in the present moment and you haven't donned that heavy cloak of responsibility and judgment, now you're really an advancing yogi. So really see the posture if you can from that point of view. So I've turned this leg out. Those toes are facing straight to the front edge of the mat. I've got some softness in this knee as much as I need. I may want to make some adjustments with this leg, as you know. Little forward, little internal rotation, depending on what's going on in the body today. When you're ready to inhale, let's spread the arms directly from the heart center and exhale into a fairly accessible triangle pose. Inhale, take the top arm, extend it up over the ear, and then exhale, come back up out of the pose. So incorporate Samavriti breathing, counting out in your own mind. So the movements are very unhurried. I find that most of the disasters in my life tend to occur when I'm in a hurry or a rush or I'm very distracted because I'm too busy and I have so many things to do and I'm very important. So when you slow down and you really inhabit each inhale and each exhale, you're much more likely to move mindfully and avoid disaster, but you're also much likely to get more satisfaction from that which you are engaged in. Let's turn the feet parallel now. We've done 3 series to one side. We'll do 3 series to the other side. Make the leg adjustments that keep you safe and able to move. And then begin with your samavriti breath, inhaling for your 4 or 5 or even 6 counts. So a lot of people think of yoga as stretching and, plank poses and things like that. But in actuality, yoga is a breathing practice. It's a breathing practice in order to help us touch base with our higher potential. And I'm on my last series on this side. And you can test this kind of idea in your own laboratory. You're doing that right now. You're trying as best as you can in your experiment this morning to stay in a present moment, state of mind, to be in the being mode. So you're experiencing your life as it unfolds, not through the lens of a heavy cloak of responsibility or judgment. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, we're going to come down into a seated position. So I'm going to grab my blanket again. I don't need it folded quite so thick for this kind of work, maybe an inch or 2 thick. And I'm hooking my sitting bones just over the edge of the blanket so that I feel as though my pelvis can kind of cascade forward a little bit. We'll initially start in staff pose with our legs outstretched in front of us, and your fingertips can be behind you to help you find an upright spine, although we're not really weight bearing on the hands. They don't have a really important job to do in this. Just taking a moment to find neutral. Now we've come to the ground, breathing in and out. Okay, and then let's bend one knee and let that knee drop out to the side. And know that you can use pillows, blocks, blankets to help lift up that knee if the hip is a little bit sore. Someone's very restless today. So when you're ready, let's come into a little bit of a series here. We'll inhale, extend the arms as far as they are comfortable. Exhale, fold over the leg, just until you feel kind of some stiffness hold you back. Don't force. Inhale, press your arms so that they're straight. Lift the chest to reach it forward. Exhale, hinge forward again. Inhale, arms are either side of the ears. You should keep everything in one unit to come all the way up. And exhale, release the arms to your sides. Let's do that 2 more times. Use your samavriti breath. And notice the pressure to perform. It comes up in yoga. And I wish it didn't, but it does for me all the time. And really try to keep this centered in the breath. And notice that as you let go of all the pressure we might normally put on ourselves to be perfect at yoga or perfect at the posture, things reveal themselves. Things open more. Let's lift this knee up. We're going to come into a little bit of a twist here. We might hold the twist. We did dynamic twists earlier in the practice. So I've got my left knee lifted. I'm going to take my right arm and inhale my body nice and straight. And exhale, twist. Let the arm drape over the front of the shin. Let's not go into a very deep pull with this arm. Keep an emphasis on a long, strong spine. And notice where you may be gripping or really forcing or holding tension. The jaw. Even your fingers can be gripping and holding tension. And see if you can take 3 deep breaths, really focusing on that even wave breath. And when you've taken 3 nice deep breaths, slowly unwind the spine and come back to our neutral position. So that might not be the sexiest twist that we've ever done in yoga together, but I wonder how that affected the deeper layers of your experience. Were you able to be more present with the twist, more present with your body when there wasn't so much pressure to look sexy? Let's try the other side and see what happens. Remember, there's props you can use underneath this knee if you need to. Inhale. Exhale, angle forward. Inhale, extend the heart up and forward. Arms are straight. Exhale, forward fold again. And inhale, lift. And repeating that sequence 2 more times. Doing the best you can to maintain samavriti. And to use the movements in order to get deeper into your unconscious programming. The movements are here to help reveal how heavy is that cloak of judgment and fear and opinions that we unconsciously put on every morning. We take it home with us, we pick it up with us, we wear it to work, to play. And the older we get, I think, the heavier the coat can maybe feel. So we're using our movements and our breath to just lessen that burden. And you don't have to know exactly what's going on. We don't need to analyze this too literally. Just know that using the even wave breath and coming into the twist now, just like you did on the other side, these movements help us to shed not only physical tension out of the body, but mental and emotional tension out of the body. So tomorrow morning when we get up, the cloak might not be quite so heavy. At least we have awareness now of the difference between getting up and doing what we've always done and then our suffering just multiplying. And then we can get up in the morning and we can say, no, I'm going to be in the being mode today for a little bit longer. I'm going to observe a little bit longer. I'm going to live my life without trying to control or force it. One more samavriti breath. And then let's release back into our neutral position. And we're going to come down onto the floor. If you do have a chair handy, it's a nice modification for this particular posture we're coming into. If you don't have a chair, don't worry about it. Maybe a yoga block would come in handy, or if you have an ottoman in your space or something like that. So I'm going to use the chair, but know that you don't have to. You can have your feet on the floor. So I found myself in a position where my spine is fully supported by the earth, knees over the hips, and the feet braced against the edge of the chair. You could be using the edge of your couch or the edge of your coffee table. I may have to adjust the distance from my body to the chair, depending on how my hips are feeling this morning. We've done quite a bit to warm them up, but you never know. So I'm going to take one leg, bring it in towards me, and point the knee out to the side, and then see if I can cross the ankle over the opposite shin. This is feeling a little bit tight, so I'm just going to back up a little bit here to create a bit more space. I want to make sure that the whole spine is still aligned to the floor, especially right down to the tailbone. If I had to lift myself right up into a pelvic tuck in order to get this shape with my legs, It's not worth it. So I want to really see if I can allow this to find me rather than me go search for this shape. So now we just relax here for a moment, letting the hip have a little stretch through these outer buttock muscles. And then maybe over time, I might shift my body a bit closer to the chair or the couch, whatever I'm using, and notice the intensification of the feelings in this buttock, but I'm still able to keep my tailbone on the ground. I still haven't gone into posterior tilt with the pelvis. You can stay right here. We can also use this as a modification in bridge pose. So just a little bit of fun here. Make sure that your foot that's on the chair or whatever you're using is steady. It's not going to slide away from you. And you can, on the inhale, lift up the hips, and on the exhale, slowly lower back down. Using your Samavriti breath. Now, of course, this foot that's on the chair could be on the floor. You could be doing exactly the same thing. It could be on a block. This is a little bit more novel for my body. And after you've done about 5 breaths with your one-legged bridge pose, you could unwind your legs and come back with your feet where they started. And take a moment to inhabit your body. And then we can do the other side. Bring the other knee close to your body, turn it out, and cross the ankle over the opposite thigh. And know that you can adjust your body. It can shift closer or move further away from where your feet are so that you feel like you can maintain a neutral arch in your low back. You haven't gone into a posterior tilt. And you have an interesting sensation in the buttock, but nothing compelling. Nothing that makes it so you can't think about anything else. And then initiate Samavriti breath if you haven't already. I keep, in my practice, having to go back to counting because otherwise I lose track of it. That heavy cloak of judgment and planning and everything takes over my brain. So I have to keep coming back to counting the breath so I can stay focused on the present moment. And then if you feel like the movement, this works great. To inhale, lift the hips, and exhale, lower. Notice I'm keeping the hips pretty level to the ground. When I lift up, I'm trying not to tip over to one side. That makes this quite challenging. And know that this movement portion is entirely optional. You might prefer to have your hips stay on the ground and just work on the buttock stretch aspect of this. Gaze stays straight at the ceiling, especially if you're moving. And when things get really challenging, you want to maintain emphasis on the breath. That's 5 breaths on that side. So I'm going to return to my neutral position. And then let's take our legs and our arms and extend them straight. Inhale here. Exhale, hug one knee in towards the chest. Inhale, extend. Exhale, hug the other knee in towards the chest. Inhale, really lengthen out of the heels, the fingertips. Exhale, both knees into the chest. Repeating that pattern 2 more times. Using your Samavriti breath is our last little bit of movement here. As you come into the different aspects of this movement, keep your spine steady to the ground. Have your anchor. And that helps give us confidence to take these crazy rides through all these yogic ideas of surrendering control, surrendering our judgments, surrendering bullying everything. When both knees have come back into the chest, you can stay right here. You can do the circles we did earlier. You can do happy baby or another supine twist. Anything that will help your back completely settle so we can come to Shavasana now. So when you're ready, stretching out onto your mat. If you have a chair handy and you like the idea of legs up the chair pose to finish class today, that's always an option. Make sure you're warm enough. We often talk about Shavasana in our yoga practice as a way to practice surrender. And I often think of it as one of the more difficult practices, one of the more difficult postures in yoga, because it's so difficult for me to just keep that heavy cloak of responsibility and judgment away for just a little bit longer. Once there's no more sexy movements to do, I'm like, okay, well, we could get busy. We could do this. We could get that done. It's not time yet. It's time for maybe the most important part, the most challenging part to your yoga practice. So please notice the parts of your body that are in contact with the earth. The back of your legs and feet. The parts of your spine that are resting into the earth. Your shoulder blades, your arms, your hands, and the back of your head. You got to know what you can count on in life before you feel safe enough to surrender. And so in Shavasana, you know you can count on the solidity of the earth. So really allow the earth to hold you, to support you. And then invite your breath to come rest in this solid, safe place. So we no longer need to count our inhales or our exhales, but we can welcome them. We can hold space open for them. And we can invite the breath to move softly and completely in our bodies. I'm sure we've all had the experience of being upset or afraid or angry. And you know how your breath changes when that happens. But then there's the thousands of minutes every day where you're not really conscious of being upset or angry, but there's that cloak, there's that unconscious programming that's pushing the agenda, and it's affecting your breathing all day long. Typically, we hold our breath, or our breath is held back. So now we feel the embrace of the earth, we trust the earth, and we invite the breath to inhabit our body fully. Breath is life. And when we hold back breathing, when we're too nervous to take a deep breath or too busy to think about it, we're not really living. In the imagery we've been using in class today, we're just lugging around that big chain of armor. So soften into the earth today. Welcome the breath. Allow it to move freely throughout your whole body. Breathing in the toes, breathing in the ankles, the calves, the knees. Breath moving freely in the thighs and buttocks and pelvis. Breath moving in the fingers and the hands and the wrists. Breath moving in the lower arms and elbows and upper arms, shoulders, especially breath moving freely in the shoulders. Breath moving freely in the whole spine, in the belly, the chest, the neck and throat, and breath freely moving throughout the brain, the whole cranium. Let your whole body breathe. So you've worked very hard today to be conscious of the unconscious, to recognize when you're donning that heavy cloak and trying to come back to the present moment, trying to come back to the sense of being. Now you have a choice. This is perhaps the second time you've come up from resting today. What will you put on? What will you assume again? And before you come out of Shavasana, maybe make a little deal with yourself. As best as I can throughout my day, I'm going to reconnect with my breath. I'm going to reconnect with this being state of mind. And I'm going to see what I can do to be more conscious of this heavy cloak, this unconscious armor that I lug around that exhausts me and zaps my zest for life. This is a long-term project. We're not going to fix this today, but at least maybe our eyes are a bit more open. So let's go back to breathing again. Take a few deeper, more deliberate breaths. Reconnecting with Samavriti and knowing this tool is yours to take with you through everything you do today. And then when you're ready, you can animate your body with a little gentle movement and roll over to your side and make your way up to a seated position. This is the same position you might have started class in today. And then I would invite you to bring your hands together at your heart, extending gratitude back to your physical body for helping you understand all these things. And let's share the sound of Om. I'm inhaling now. Namaste, my friends. I'd love to stay and chat for a minute, so just let me, you might have to unmute.